global pandemic going on this year, but so many other issues, and it's seeming like viruses of division and hatred that are going on in our world and dividing us as well in many different directions. And we felt that we would like to put a program together sharing some of our art that we have written from our experiences as a means, a different kind of conversation, and that we could focus on unity and how we come to identify what we suffer from, and to focus on transforming and healing and caring for each other as well. And so this isn't a performance as much as us getting together and sharing some of our poems and stories and songs with one another this evening. And Carolyn, I don't know what you would like to share related to that for
You,
what we have in mind.
yeah, I mean, only as we were preparing for this show and looking through my materials and your materials, I realized, not for the first time, that they are very conducive to healing, because that's who we are as people. People who want to share healing and positive feelings out in a world that's a little off kilter right now with all that's going on. And I know all that's going on in our personal lives, we might feel a little isolated, a little depressed, a little out of touch. And so what we wanted to do was try to help those feelings. This certainly helps me as I sit down and review arts and poetry and songs. And so we wanted to take a moment to share some of that with you, hoping it sort of brings the same results. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I am too. And I thank HCAM-TV
Yes.
for hosting this evening. And this is an organic program of putting our art together, and we don't propose to have answers or lecture material from this. It's just us speaking from our art and our lives and putting it together. And I'm beginning with that now, and we talked about some different themes that of ours that intersect in different ways, addressing what's going on in the world and related to healing. And we talked about the importance of connecting to nature in these times that are so difficult, and we might find ourselves, attached to our social media news feed or TVs, or in different places that get us disconnected from what's going on inside us and with our community. And so this first poem I have for you is not written by me, but my late mother-in-law, Lillian Perreault. And I loved and admired her deeply. And when she died, I felt like I was losing one of the wise elders. I think that we do not invest enough respect of our elders and the deep wisdom that they have in them to help guide us in times like these. And she married her husband in her young years when he returned from World War II. She was devout in her Catholic faith, which kept her growing through a lot of hard times, and 9 children, and I married one of them. And at the end of her life, after much care and hard work in her life, she needed to be in a nursing home for her own belongings began to pare down. I noticed in visiting her, she began to focus on a maple tree outside her window and tell me what was going on with it at different stages of the year. And she began to sketch it and paint it, and that was very striking to me how much she was attaching. And I realized that the maple tree was helping her with her own healing and letting go of life eventually. And I was outside with her in the last year at one point on a nice fall day, and she was pointing to the tree and talking about it and a leaf she identified with. And I said, wait a minute, let me grab a pen. You're making a poem here. And she'd never written a poem before, and she thought maybe she wasn't understanding of why I like poetry so much. She liked art. But so I grabbed a pen, and here's her poem, My Tree. Sometimes I look out the window and I see one beautiful tree. It seems to be saying hello. The rest of the surrounding trees look dead in comparison. So I think this one is a messenger that was put there just for me. This tree waving its leaves in the wind at me with bright colors of orange, yellow, and still some green. This makes me wonder, when will those colors all begin to fall? The tree doesn't tell me this. It keeps its silence on such matters, but other times I notice the tree looks as if it intends to move and speak to me. Some people might say I'm talking crazy, but I swear sometimes trees are here like this one is to speak to us, to speak to me, and so I listen. It's funny how when you really watch a tree, it seems like a living, breathing, moving being. Now that I think of it, I remember once I was a leaf falling from the sky. And that was Lillian Perreault, and her
Beautiful.
one only poem in life with a lot of wisdom. And as we were talking about our connection to nature and how important it is in these days, I notice at this time that I am aging and approaching elder years. And I notice that I am connecting to the natural world more and more. And in this time of quarantine, I've taken to the habit of sitting on my front step in the morning and being very still, observing nature, and seeing how it offers me peace. And I'm offering a prayer for the world at this time. And before I go to sleep, I go out and see the stars. And I am thinking about the world then as well, and noticing how connected I feel when I'm doing this, and how I realize the earth really does provide us with everything. So this is a recent poem of mine called Connection. I am the multitude of stars. I am the multitude of all beings on this planet that I feel these days and love so much, like a last hurrah inside of me, outside of me. The deep raw beauty and all the offerings of this earth given so generously, and yet often we don't even see or know how very related we are to every single particle. With open eyes how short and precious this life here is. I think of the conversation I had with my 14-year-old niece this week. All of her mind and heart seemed wired into a technology of her phone while we were talking. She asked, why is the earth so important? Why do we have to be so good to each other all of the time? Such good, deep questions we all at some moment ask, but not as bravely as she. I think back when I was in my 50s, just waking up to this answer of how very connected we really are on this planet. While taking a siesta in the deep green grass of the backyard, I think of the news of drilling for oil, or the animals we are losing, or all the toxicity from our wars and division having impact on the world's layers of ground and atmosphere, like Dr. Emoto's decomposing water crystals crying for the world. I think of when I was in meditation group last night and feeling like I was a tiny fleck of star in the galaxy, being there amidst billions and beyond, just resting in place and loving everything around me, just giving light the best I can.
Just absolutely wonderful. And your words, they move me as they always do. And as I was listening to that poem um, and going through my songs, I found one that I thought meshed well with your poem. But that often happens when we work together. We sort of have that connection, and we were thinking about nature and how healing it was at the time. And so this seems a natural fit. It's called Fly Away Home. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum. Sit by the water, feel the summer breeze, run the earth through my fingers, hear the winds talk to me, makes me want to fly, fly, fly away home. Makes me want to fly, fly, fly away home. Lying on the grass, singing softly to the trees. Hear them as they answer, hear the calling of the seas. Makes me want to fly, fly, fly away home. Makes me want to fly, fly, fly away home. Soothing, touching, taking care of my soul. Feeling warm embraces, feeling nowhere I have to go. 'Cause I want to fly, fly, fly away home. Makes me want to fly, fly, fly away home. Makes me want to fly, fly, fly away home. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum. Hmm.
Thank you, Carolyn.
I feel
I,
I'm out there right now. I can
yeah,
actually feel the grass in my toes and how it feels to be leaning against a tree and what peace it brings me.
it's it's really good medicine. I think when we're seeking a lot of other medicines sometimes and bringing us peace, and I know sometimes in the younger years people might be saying, "What are they talking about?" The with this, and like I said, the older I get, the more that I see how interconnected the earth provides us with everything, and it gives us peace in this time when so much is going on, to get our heads out there and take a hike or just sit still in our own under a tree or something.
Yeah,
And
it yeah, it makes me sad sometimes because when we were kids, we did a lot more of that. We were outside playing in nature and trees and grass and running around. And, as I'm getting older, I find I do, unfortunately, less than that as I'm watching the news on TV or playing with my tablet or my smartphone, that we sort of step away from the natural peace that nature brings us.
Yeah. Well, I remember some of the places we brought this and doing a mashup together, especially nursing homes with the elderly who need to stay within, and how it can be transporting even to talk about it, to think about some of the images out there that are offered as healing for us.
I remember one of the last, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I remember one of the last ones we did, and we had people singing along, and became so engaged that when we sort of ran out of time and we missed a verse, there were protests from the folks that, no, we want to finish this. We want to finish this song and remember. So that was fun.
Yeah. So thank you. And speaking of mashup, I think that's what we had scheduled next, to offer a collaboration together of a story I have, as well as a song that you have. And we are addressing facing differences in the world, and we're addressing race, differences in race, and coming from different world experiences, and we're putting them together. So I will get started with this, and I don't know if you wanted to say anything before we begin with your song, or wait till after.
We can wait till after. We
Okay.
can get started.
Yeah.
Now, did we want the background as you were?
Sure. Yes, because it works now.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, so I just wanted to introduce this piece, which I wrote years ago, called "The Day I Took My Skin Off." And I heard Yo-Yo Ma on last night at a reading, and a poetry reading for Mass Poetry. And he said, think of it this way for music. Every short utterance of the cello is a musical form of poetry that can bring the whole world together through your help as a listener in your imagination to share a common world. Talking about how music can bring us together, talking about how poetry also does that. And what I propose is that we experience this with drums now, because that's what this piece is about. Oh, about 15 or so years ago, when I was just starting to share some of my spoken word poetry out there, I was invited to an open mic event in Cambridge that the great poet Reggie Gibson hosted then, and told to bring a drum. And my reading of poetry those days was pretty quiet, still is, and sometimes I perform with a guitarist. And so as I stepped in, I noticed that I was pretty different in this experience. But also after coming out and writing this, realized that getting past the differences was one of the most alive moments I've ever had. It was one of those hot, still middle of summer nights, and I was walking on the sidewalks of the city street, barely able to keep up with my own feet, because I was walking to an invitation where there was some mention of music, some mention of drums, some mention of poetry from a man I had met, whose words, when spoken or sung, made my mouth drop open. And I was invited but unsure about something a little new, unsure about something a little different, unsure if it was the right place for me to be, since the one who had invited me was dramatic, loud like a preacher, black and a man. Me being one who was quiet like a hushed nun, reticent, white, and a woman.
As we sailed across the waters in chains and sorrow, calling for my people to be free. No one can hurt them in the land of glory, calling for my people to be free. As we sail, calling for my people to be free. As we sail, calling for my people to be free. 'Cause no man can hurt me in the land of glory, calling for my people to be free.
But I decided to get in my car and go for a ride, drive to the city, walk to this place of invitation, step inside, poking my head in the door where I heard this loudness of singing, of drums and of sax as it came ringing out of the cracks of this place, and the heads were turning. I was different. My guard was up to the different. I took a deep breath, pushed my inhibition aside, pushed myself across the floor, because there was this music calling me. It was tapping me on the shoulder. It was sliding me through the door, while my skin and the ancestors within were screaming at me to halt, shouting I didn't belong, shouting something here was wrong, shouting something here was different.
As we lived our lives in segregation, calling for my people to be free. Shouting with your ropes that we are not human, calling for my people to be free. As we hung, calling for my people to be free. As we hung, calling for my people to be free. 'Cause no man can hurt us in the land of glory, calling for my people to be free.
And at that point, I didn't know if it was me or it was them. I didn't know if it was black or it was white. I didn't know if it was man or it was woman. I didn't know if I should stay or go. And then, just in time, he greeted me at the door, extended a friendly hand, slid a drum to my knees, told me to pound along with the sound, with the song. He told me like he was giving a prescription of something good for my soul, while at that moment I was wondering if I ever even had one. And suddenly I saw this sight before me, circle of people playing with drums, singing the songs, this music softly moving me, quietly stirring me, tapping me on the shoulder, sliding my hands to the drum.
As we're shot on the streets by people with badges, calling for my people to be free. Shouting with your bullets that we are not human, calling calling for my people to be free. As we die, as we die, calling for my people to be free. As we die, as we die, calling for my people to be free. But no man can hurt us in the land of glory, calling for my people to be free.
And something snapped. I let go of it all, melted into the sound of drums, into the songs of the crowd, into the rhythm and beat, into the millions of years, falling backwards into the sounds of the first ones of whom we all come. And we were all there together, dancing to music, mouths moving in rhythm, our hands held in circle, eyes looking skyward, faces were glowing, feet simply knowing just how to respond, hearts beating faster along with the drums, making beautiful patterns, each one very different, but alike in the joy of our music and song.
As supremacists walk the streets of our city, calling for my people to be free. Shouting with your words that we are not human, calling for my people to be free. But hate will lose, hate will lose, calling for my people to be free. Hate will lose, hate will lose, calling for my people to be free. Calling for my people to be free. It's time for our people to be free.
Thunder, lightning, fire, sparks dancing, outside us, inside us, upon the earth, into the sky, something so deep and surrounding. And I smiled a smile of release, with this new feeling holding me, as I sat beside you, my brother, my sister, my earth, my sky, while we were playing our drums and singing our songs into the night. And I leaned back in my seat, no longer in my same skin, and I,
And I,
and I,
and I,
and I,
and I.
and I felt the peace.
A peace.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
I don't know if you wanted to say a few words.
Well, you know, this is a mashup that people might find odd, given my song and your poem, but they really interconnect really well because they both end in hope. They both end of peace. And while I'm sort of bringing down the history, it ends in hope. Hate will not win. And your story was one of a coming together of people who were so different. You and he, and opening the door that we hope those doors are opening all over the place, all over the world. And that was a perfect example of that happening. And so these songs really go well together. Yeah.
And in these times when we are reckoning and addressing what is happening in our country, what has happened for 400 years, and dealing with systemic and structural racism, racial violence, as white people, it is time to listen to the stories. And as you tell the story through the song here and finding ways of coming together through art and other means, side by side, and united. So I thank you for singing that song as part of this collaboration.
Oh, thank you. Hate will lose.
Yes.
All righty.
So we're moving along
We
here.
are.
And now we have our next part where you will share something and then me, if I remember correctly.
um,
Anything else
yes.
you want to talk about? I'll just say that I'm looking at our time, that in doing this program, putting some of our pieces together, and I know I'm writing new things now with these times, and you are too. We haven't put those together yet, but we have come up with so many interesting stories, right?
Yes. Yes. Um, and this one, um, it's related to my last song in a bit. And, we use the word hate in my last song and it will lose. Um, but what we really want to do is show more love in the world, show more love, between um, between everybody, not just between the races, but we want, I think, to show the love to people that we see every day, and we might not stop and appreciate who they are and what they're struggling with. So, the message of this song is showing the love to everybody. So, and it's called "Show Your Love."
That's a good title, good topic.
See somebody walking down the street, somebody you may not want to meet. Dirty clothes, broken shoes, someone you just wouldn't choose. But take a hand, take a hand, take a hand, take a hand, and show your love. Show your love, 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 love. Do 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 do. See somebody struggling to get by. Somebody who will let you walk on by. Faded dreams, no luck it seems. Tears fall from her eyes, but don't turn away. You gotta stay. The world will change that way and show your love. Show your love, 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 and do 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 and see somebody who doesn't look like you. Somebody who has a different view, different look, a different skin. Someone you told you can't let in, but take a hand, take a hand, take a hand, take a hand, and show your love and show your love. Show your love, 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 love. Show your love. Show your love.
Yeah. Thank you, Carolyn. Beautiful. And I feel the love that you're sending over.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, I think people are trying. Uh, uh, and we've had, as we were maybe talking about at the beginning, there has been so much brought up, especially in the past year, in addition to the virus, of differences, politically, religious, race, uh, gender. Um, So, I was thinking of my own parents, and we were talking about this, and that I realized, where there's a lot of heat about politics now, and and that is affected maybe by generations and what we grow up with, as well as other differences too. We come from different stories, religion. And just recently, in this past year, I've noticed how I'm in the middle of a sandwich of my family with my parents, who are 80 years old now and come from a different generation of looking at everything that's happening now. And I have had the opportunity with a quarantine to visit them and talk about politics and our differences that we came from growing up in different generations. And, it used to be more heated, I think, sometimes, because I wanted them to think just like me.
Mm.
And, and I'm also, I have daughters who are young adults now, and I think, and they have learned more than me on this, as we all are on this evolutionary trail of being human. And we go on for future generations. So I am open, and I ask them questions, and trying to be open to them as well. Take that in. And just recently, I learned something from an upstander training about learning to ally ourselves and stand up and speak up for others, or speak to people in our families and circles. And I realized, in my best interest, with my family, and some other circles, sometimes I might be force feeding them some of my own political views or fears, or dealing about differences in religion and my family growing up very strict. And in learning to back up from that, and that there might be different ways of pausing and listening to someone else's perspective rather than force feeding what I think somebody else, because I'm the one who's right. And I've noticed how not only that has been useful for us in conversation, but it is helping to deepen our intimacy, our conversation, our feelings for each other too, talking at a deeper level. And your song reminded me of that in that moment.
It's funny, um, how sort of opening up and listening intuitively isn't something that we naturally do. And I'm spending some time with my brother and his family and my niece, and she's 10, and she doesn't often tell me exactly what she wants. And I always tell her, you don't sort of have to dance around, you don't have to bring in extraneous stuff. Ask for what you need, ask for what you want, in this world. And I think sometimes, is it as simple as that, as just asking for for what you want in the world. And you know it might not be that simple, but the art of listening to our elders who have come before us and really have thoughts and feelings and reasons for the way that they feel, and to sort of have conversations and sort of to discover that sort of gives us that complete story. So in some ways, when you take the time and you listen to parents and you listen to children and you listen to the people that you're around express themselves in a really meaningful way in terms of what they see in the world and what they need, it could be that simple.
And we're not doing a lot of listening, at least on the TV
Oh.
media. So listening
Yes.
is very, very important. And you mentioned dance, Carolyn. And that is my next piece before we get to our last piece. Um, right? It's my turn.
It's your turn.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to it. So yes, it's your turn.
We talked about memory. Sometimes we have to help each other. Yes. Okay. So this is a story from last year, and this is called The Welcoming Dance. And it is only in my later years in life, my early 50s, I came back to dancing. How important it is for the body and mind, because I was pretty conservative about that before when I left it at age 20 at the disco scene, and I was just too mature to dance anymore, I guess. And but then I came back to it, and we actually did some Hard Times Require Furious dance programs together, which poet Alice Walker, when she was having the heart, maybe this is a good idea, hardest year of her life, and her family was too, they decided to rent a dance hall in November, and they all just got together and put on great music and danced all night, and it was really helpful and healing to them to just release the tension, the stress, the anger, the frustration, and feel connected to their body and their mind and feel joy come through. It gave them new power. So here's a story about dance as well. The Welcoming Dance. Last year, my husband and I were visiting our daughter in the DC neighborhood, where welcoming signs hung from doorways and rainbow flags waved for the Pride Parade that had been taking place that weekend. People would look at you and smile and even ask your name. There were people walking all sizes of smiling dogs, and at one point a teacher led a chain of small children gripping one long rope across the street, making everyone smile. As we were sitting at the outdoor patio of a cafe, a car stopped in the middle of the street just a few feet from our table, emitting a loud, pulsating music from the radio. The passenger door opened, and an elegant woman wearing a sleeveless flowing dress with a short buzz-cut hair and tattooed arms adorned by jingling silver bangle bracelets stepped out and began dancing in the middle of the street, causing the cafe spectators to smile and some to stand as they watched her dance in ecstatic and unbridled joy. At that moment, a police car pulled up behind her and slowed down. We watched, wondering, how could she possibly be reprimanded simply for dancing out so much joy? But no such thing in this love-minded neighborhood of this weekend, as the ecstatic woman simply danced to one side, leaving enough room for the car to proceed. There was a collective sigh of relief and laughter as the patrol car drove by and the officers seemed to be smiling. Then this dance goddess noticed us. I almost knew what she was thinking as she looked us over at our table and began to dance her way over. Although my husband and my daughter were saying no thank you in their minds, I was silently shouting from mine, "Yes, yes, pick me." Sure enough, she seemed to have heard as she held her arms out for me to dance. How could I not? It was in that moment an instant state of bliss and an ecstatic celebration of dance. We were women of different shades of skin. One of us had tattoos, one of us had arms unadorned. We didn't know a thing about each other's lives, but it was as if we were one body, and it was at once fun, funny, and sacred to share this joy of movement, of deep felt interconnection. We hugged and she danced away back to her car, and in retrospect, I can't remember any of the details, just the pure sudden energy of this. I love that moment of dancing with a perfect stranger. I love that wonderful dancing woman. I loved the officer in the patrol car, and I loved the smiling people at the cafe. Furthermore, I loved the great privilege of being alive in that moment, dancing and feeling momentary interconnection with everyone and everything. And I wondered after, why can't this happen more often in all places? I wish more of these moments for all of the people who share our world house. I wish us all more moments of feeling love for one another and for honoring together the precious gift of breath and dance and life. That is my story, and I have no idea what I did for dance moves in that moment. I know people were standing up more in the cafe and they were taking pictures of us, and it was quite a phenomenon. And it was one of my best moments in life also.
That was wonderful. I love that story. And I love that you reminded me about Furious Dance and what a freeing, wonderful series of events those were. And as you were talking just now about the importance of dance, it reminded me about a week ago, I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom and I flicked on the radio and a song that I love came on. And first I just stood there and continued to brush. But then without me even realizing it, my body started to go back and forth. And before the end of the song, it was a full blown dance in my bathroom.
Oh,
And I've never been so happy brushing my teeth in my life, but it it was just wonderful. And this poem just reminds me that, you know, you have nothing to lose. Dance,
yeah,
dance.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it might be a good plan for getting children to brush their teeth too, Carolyn.
Yeah, I might try it out on my niece while I'm here, but we won't tell her
Yeah.
it's
One of my
something for her own good.
There's a favorite video, and it is Where in the World is, oh no, I can't remember his name, but it's a dance video, and the man goes all around the world and
Oh,
dancing with people. It's great, and I recommend it. Maybe if you type in Where in the World is Matt. There we go. It's amazing dance to see him all over the world dancing with people and a
I'll
uniform.
watch it.
Yeah. So our last piece we have is one last mashup before we end, and it looks like we have 10 minutes, so I think we're on time
Yep.
for this experiment we put together tonight.
It's been a pleasure to do this with you and to do the planning um, for this with you and to look through all of my stuff and to hear your poetry again. It's just been wonderful. So I thank you for this journey. And
Well, I
yeah,
thank you too, Carolyn, for joining me on this, and I feel the same. And we thank the HCAM crew of Mike and Bob tonight to help us share this with others. And we'll offer an invitation at the end. But we will first go to this mashup, which is called Confessional. And I just thought I would start it by saying I used to do hospice work with people who were at the end of life. And I had heard once from a psychiatrist giving us information how to work with people when they might be holding things in, that he was called to work with veterans of war because they were holding the stories of the trauma and difficulties of war until the end of their life, and they were having very painful experiences in dying rather than being at peace, and it was prolonging the pain. And he discovered by talking with them about not releasing stories and looking at life, forgiving oneself, working on forgiveness more, that and talking about post-trauma growth rather than just disorder that we're stunted at. And he had his success with these veterans who were then able to come to greater peace and did not have the struggles that he was called in to help with. And it's been found this approach is helping many people, and the message that we all have the potential to grow every moment. We still have a breath until the very end of life. It doesn't stop when we're in 80s or 90s. And that's like a great promise for us. And that's the idea of this piece that I have called Confessional. When I was in my late 30s, I was disappointed with myself about missing an opportunity for not speaking up. I rode home on the train back to the suburbs from Boston. I was getting on my own case. My head was being very critical. So I wrote down my thoughts, and I realized, oh, I'm getting on my case, but then I'm defending myself. This is feeling like a confession, although I've never been in one, from my experience. And I realized it was developing into the work of self-growth and forgiveness. And that if we're going to be looking at the world and trying to unite and connect with each other in love, we have to work on our own self too. And sometimes that's the hardest work. And so that's what this piece is about. It started with me, but it's really for everyone, kind of a prayer poem. And you have your piece that you're adding to it.
Okay.
We might close as we end at 8, but we will just close into song. And I guess in that case, our thought is that we're sharing some art in showing how to approach talking about shared stories and promoting more unity and connection. And we invite people to think of what they love to do, or their talents, or their passions or calling, life is calling them to do, to help make this a better world going forward too. So we'll just do it and see how long we go.
Okay.
All right. I am wandering in the darkness of a cold and pouring rainstorm. I've been alone and thinking, and my thoughts now make me crazy. With internal conflict I've been raising, and I wander in this place, a refuge for forgiveness. Step up to the heavy door, listening, waiting, seeking. I need confession, I need forgiveness, I need acceptance for my imbalance. And the door slowly opens as I feel my fear increasing, yet I go inside hearing the words rock and stir around me as I begin to speak.
Save us. Come on, we can save us. Save us. Come on, we can save us in this world. In this world.
That in retrospect I sometimes see myself in old ways, Like when I was a girl, when my mind was never on straight, seeing people from my past who bring me back smear the memories in my face. It is my fault, I know. It makes me so ashamed to see mistakes I've made. But I love the transformation that I constantly am making. Love to watch the way that my life unfolds on this path that I am taking, to feel the wisdom and the hindsight of my past shine to guide me like a flashlight.
Heal us. Come on, we can heal us. Heal us. Come on, we can heal us in this world. In this world.
I hate to let go of my youth, see myself as aging, watch the wrinkles start to grow, try to cover age with band-aids, to think that someday I'll have to grow back to the way of babies, rely on someone else to maybe feed me, wipe my drool, tell me to behave, prepare me in my weakened state to let go of my life. I hate to think I'll have to be that brave. But I love that I am growing calmer, wiser, stronger in my older age, and that I now magnify the importance of each and every single day.
Kindness, spread a little more kindness. Kindness, spread a little more kindness through this world. Through this world.
I hate when I have a bad day, feel so alone, unhappy, thinking there was no one really here on my side. But I feel solid in my selfhood, remind myself we all feel alone from time to time, crowded and surrounded by billions on this planet, but feeling like we're the only ones sometimes. And getting past that, getting up, brushing our knees off, looking around us, seeing the connections we've made along the way that we are truly blessed with, and move on to yet another day.
Love, love for us. Spread a little more love for us. Love for us. Spread a little more love for us in this world. In this world. In this world. In this world.
Clear on TV.
All right. Okay, we're done.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
never done. You're just off TV.